Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. This week we are an Arsenal podcast for the post-Molde game in the Europa League. This evening I am joined by Femi. Femi, how's it going?
Going good, Josh. Good evening, and good evening to all the people in the comments. Good to see
Yeah,
everyone.
absolutely. I think first person I saw slide into the chat box. Oh, well, the first one was Danny, the GFP, but he doesn't count. So who's the next one in there that wasn't one of Danny's other many burner accounts? Yes, the Hybrian. We see you. I think it's True Gooner. For Pepe, give us a wave. And yeah, I think that's probably where we're going to go through most of this game. Um, because as you can see, if you are watching on YouTube, you can't see this if you're listening to the podcast. We are still doing the thing with Manscaped. So, I know Black Friday is upon us and a big Thanksgiving congratulations. Merry Thanksgiving. I don't know what the traditional greeting is for it. Femi, can you help me out there? Any idea?
Uh, Happy Black Day, Saturday, Friday. I don't know. I don't have a clue.
Happy Thanksgiving. We'll go with that.
Thanksgiving.
Okay. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Because there are some people who, in preparation for getting into that post Turkey coma, had to go through that first half. And one thing you could have done instead of watch us for 45 minutes, try and create anything close to a goal, was shave your ball bag instead. That is definitely one of the things you could have done. And at Manscaped at the moment, if you go onto their website and use the code Bergkamp, you will get 20% off. That's the plugging bit out of the way, I think. And let's kind of go through the game, Femi. Should we talk a little bit about the first half? I know there isn't a lot to talk about. My main highlight being the Phil Babb / moment of particular Molde player. And yeah, is there anything else you kind of want to talk through?
No. I don't know if the guy was more concerned about what was about to happen to him or the miss that horrendous miss from like 1 yard out, which was
Uh,
pretty impressive to be fair. Maybe he saw what was coming. The lights were flashing in his head, and he thought,
it was one of those that I think, yeah, at some point when he's making connection with it, he suddenly realizes that the post is getting perilously close to him making a connection with it. Yeah.
"Oh
Ah,
yeah."
I think
And
the
that's the
worst
that's
thing about
yeah.
sorry,
Go
go
on,
on.
go on.
Yeah,
No,
I
no,
was just
go
saying the
go
worst
for it.
thing about it was the fact that BT Sport did not even draw attention to it. I was like,
Yeah. I
come
mean,
on.
I did it. To be fair, because they didn't draw attention to it, I just heard, "Oh, great save!" Until I saw the replay, I thought, "Oh, what? That was a great save." And then I saw the replay, I was like, "Was that really a save, or did he
You're
clear
not
it off
even
the line onto our keeper while
you're not
gone
even I
crashing
didn't
into?"
even I didn't even notice the save point of view. I was like, oh, Ronaldson got a touch to it in the end. I was too busy looking at what was happening in the near post. And that guy
Yeah.
having to do a head count afterwards. It's like, right, how many have I got left? Ah, but let's
Oh
talk a
man.
little bit about the lineup as well, because it was a
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
odd. Do you just run us through it as well a little bit and kind
Yeah,
of
yeah. I mean, obviously, when you see, I mean, as soon as I saw the lineup, I sent a message to one of my WhatsApp group. I was like, "What formation do you think we're playing?" So I kind of figured we're playing four at the back. The way the lineup was sort of read out, it looked like Cedric was left back, but obviously, Maitland-Niles was proper left back today, not left wing back, which is kind of he hasn't done that for a while actually, playing like a proper left back probably since the Emery days, early on in the Emery days maybe.
yeah.
And then you've got then when the midfield came out, that's when you were a bit like, okay, what are we gonna do here? I initially had Eddie playing out wide and Reece Nelson playing central, but
Mm.
to everyone's surprise, we did line up in a 4-2-3-1, but with Lacazette in dropping off number 10 role, which was, yeah, really, really interesting to say the
Yeah,
least.
it was kind of surprising. I think when I saw the lineup, I was thinking, yeah, a bit like you, what is this going to look like? And my
Yeah,
assumption was something like we saw against Leeds. where Lacazette might be that kind of Willock kind of role right
I
next to
just, I just
Aubameyang. And
didn't, I just didn't see that. I just didn't see Lacazette
no,
playing as a proper number 10. But
yeah,
I can kind of, I mean, as the game went on, I saw why he was playing that role. But I mean, it was a surprise to start with, to be fair.
yeah, definitely. And I think it was just a kind of four at the back, two in midfield, and then basically a full front four, bit like we saw against Leeds.
Yeah.
Um, Lacazette, I think we could kind of talk about his influence and how he kind of coped at that number 10 because it was a different position for him. I think he wasn't necessarily having to do as much hold up play than
Yeah.
before. But how did you think he was in terms of trying to be that more creative focal point, or at least distribute out to the wide players?
So I think in terms of space, he seemed to find a lot of space in terms of dropping. So when he dropped, Molde didn't really go with him. So he did find a lot of space. I mean, we started off quite well with him, dropping off, receiving a ball, playing it out wide. That's literally what the tactic was. Him receiving the ball, playing it out wide. So he did, I don't know what his touch map was in the first half or his pass map, but he seemed to, as soon as he gets the ball, he pops it off, especially to Reece Nelson in the first half. And yeah, so I mean, in terms of that, but in terms of, I think there was a couple of opportunities to have a crack at goal, especially in the one when he was in the box in the first half, and he sort of he dilly dallies, he doesn't make up his mind quickly enough, and we've seen that before. We've seen that he just he seems to hesitate when it comes to shooting the ball, especially when he's in the box. And as soon as he hesitates, someone is on him like a flash. It's always him as well. So, but I mean, a lot of people are saying that he had a poor evening. I think. I don't know, to be honest, because if we had an orthodox number 10 playing that role, I don't think a lot of people would say the number 10 had a poor evening. He did most of what was asked of him. He sprayed the ball around. I mean, he didn't get enough shots off. I'll give you that. But I don't think he had a particularly poor evening compared to his recent performances, to be fair.
Yeah, no, he had. I was going to say, in terms of like you were saying with the shooting, I think he knew that there was probably a goal in it for him today. I think that's why he was so disappointed when he eventually came off.
Well, I mean, you have to
Generally,
kind of have to shoot to score, and
yeah,
he only had, I mean, he had one shot that I can remember that the keeper made a comfortable save. The rest of the time, he kind of hesitates to shoot, and within a second, I mean, this modern football, within a second, you've got players just camped all over you, especially when you're in the box trying to shoot. I think he had another opportunity to have a shot, and he played it wide as well. So, I mean, can be disappointed, but I mean, I said to someone when he's coming off, why does he always look like he's going to cry every time he comes off the pitch?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll talk through Reece Nelson's performance as well, because I think he was the
Yeah,
shining light of that first half as well.
yeah.
A lot of the play was coming through him, and he looked like he was going to make the most of the opportunities. Do you think he has played himself into starting at the weekend, bearing in mind Pepe's suspended?
Well, I think that depends on the Willian injury because from the injury report that I read, Saka will be back on Sunday, and Saka will see. This is the thing with Reece Nelson that's really interesting. When he plays from the left, he looks really, really good,
Mm,
like a very decent player. When he plays on the right, he doesn't look good. It's really weird. It's like when he plays on the left, he actually looks
mm,
like he's got a lot of potential. And it's interesting because Saka will play on Sunday, no matter. I mean, they said he had a dead leg and he'll be available on Sunday. So the big mystery is Willian. If Willian is fit, unfortunately, he will start. He will start. So if you're looking at Saka on the left, Willian on the right, there's no space for Reece. And I've got a weird feeling we could see Lacazette playing behind Aubameyang in the 10. Just a sneaky little feeling that he might have been happier with that because I'm sure we can probably talk about other players, but I think Willock just looks so much more comfortable in that deeper role than the number 10 role today. But Reece Nelson played. I mean, someone's saying he was bad, but I thought he was really, really good. Quick feet, moved the ball quickly, especially first half, like you were saying. He did tire in the second half after 60, 65 minutes. He kind of faded out of the game. But before that, I mean, everything that we had went through him, really. All the attacks. As soon as he got the ball, he either drove inwards or he gave it to Maitland-Niles, who was flying down the left as well. So I thought, personally, I was raving about him personally. I thought he had a good game.
Yeah, and I think that kind of, in terms of chances we created in that first half, there weren't too many for us to kind of talk about. In general, it was very much. I think the best way could kind of describe it is one of those games that we had under Emery, where we just didn't do anything in the first half, and you almost needed to send a rocket up us in the second.
But I still thought that compared to maybe it's just, I mean, it's slim pickings, isn't it? Compared to recently, I still thought we were a lot more lively in the first half. I mean, just taking that alone, we didn't. I mean, against Leeds, we looked like we had lead in our boots. This first half, at least, we looked more sprightly. There was a little bit more movement. I mean, we had like 4 to 7 shots in the first half, which is amazing compared to what we've had before, and we just didn't move the ball fast enough. I would say that's probably the difference between first and second half.
Yeah, so let's go into the second half as well, because when you see the final stats, we had 19 shots in total and 8 shots on target, which is just probably what the combined total of our last 3 games put together.
Yeah.
I think second half we see a completely different Nicolas Pepe, someone that has been told to be a bit more direct and not necessarily wait for his teammates to catch up with him, because we see a good couple of runs from him. He hits the bar, which I think is very, very unlucky from his point of view, because you could see he was trying that for the first half and it wasn't necessarily coming off as well.
Yeah.
And then we get the first goal, and you talk us through Pepe's goal.
Yeah, I mean, what he had one in the first half where he bent it. It didn't have the curl on it. Then he had the one that hit the crossbar, as you said, and then third time lucky, he had the ball. I mean, it's amazing how often he is literally what's his name, the ex-Bayern Munich player that used to terrorize us. That you know what he's gonna do, but
Robin.
you can never. Yeah, it's literally you know what he's gonna do as a player, but how does the defender stop him? Especially when you play one-on-one against him. If you double up against him, it might be easier. But once he gets one-on-one, he doesn't do it enough. But he has got something about him that you can see. Okay, this guy could be something. Once he gets one-on-one, the turn, the left foot is always accurate. Best shooter probably bar Aubameyang in the whole club. So it's a really good goal. You can't really complain, to be honest, about the way he started the second half as well.
Yeah, and I think what he's kind of missing is that selfishness, because he is very. It's like taking a shot is his second option every time. It looks like that's what he's thinking when he plays. He's like, can I play the pass? Actually, I'll take a shot.
Yeah.
A shot never seems to be his first option, but it was a really great goal from him. And, it's, I think Danny had the stats with us somewhere for Pepe stats in the Europa League, but it is very good. And we do need someone to, if we're going to play the kids, we need somebody in the side to, get the goals, and a bit like Aubameyang in the league. We need somebody to be carrying the team through it. So it's 5 games and 4 goals.
See what that should translate to is he should be able to translate that into the Premier League in terms of at least I know it's hard to say this, but the lesser teams in the league. I know it's hard that there's a lot of good teams in the Prem, but to be able to, if he translates that to at least even if we're calling him a flat track bully in the league, that he's getting, those sort of stats in the Premier League, that will, buy him a lot of favor with the fans as well. So he just kind of has to translate that into, even if you play the lesser teams and you can. I saw some people saying stat padding. If you can stat pad against lesser teams, that's what some Premier League careers are built on, even at the bigger teams.
Yeah, and I think he looks so much more confident once he scored as well. It's almost
Yeah,
like you need to say to Pepe, you know what, take the last 5 minutes of the warm up, stick a couple in the top corner, and then just think you've already going onto the pitch scoring a goal. You've already got
yeah,
one there. Go and get more, because it completely changed the game. I think Willock with the assist there, and then Willock again 5 minutes later plays in Reece Nelson, who makes a superb run. It starts from so far out, the run that he plays, to get straight into the middle and get on the end of this ball from
yeah.
Willock. Uh,
That
yeah,
was, I mean, that literally movement. That was all about movement. From the first pass that Willock played to Pepe, as soon as he played the pass, he was on his bike, going, running into space. We see that happen against us so many times, that teams just run off of our players. I mean, I have nightmares dreaming of players running off of Xhaka as soon as they pass the ball, and he can't keep up with them. But yeah, as soon as he gave the ball, he was gone. And it's just that first movement. We see Man City. That's a Man City goal, isn't it? We see Man City do that all the time. And then Raheem Sterling will come flying from the left with a tap in, just like Reece Nelson. So that's definitely one that is from the training ground, to be fair, and one that I would love to see us make those types of movements. And I think that was the difference within the second half, the forward passing and the movement. So there was no one standing still, there was no one static. There was just constant movement, which was it just makes it much harder to defend. The reason why we've been so easy to defend against recently is there's so much static players in our team, and it's just frightening. But this time round, the movement was much, much better.
yeah, and I think that's the one really interesting thing is looking at the players that are moving around. I think it's why I'm so keen to see, well, we'll talk about him in a second, Balogun come in and play more, because the variety of runs that he offers compared to someone like Nketiah is just so much more varied. And I think he wants to go in behind. And we got those players like Nelson wants to get beyond the ball. The same with Willock. He also wants to get beyond it. And we're not necessarily seeing that from our senior players. Like, people will joke about Lacazette and look like, he was walking around in the park, because he was so tired, or just he's really unfit. It's one of the two towards the end of that second half. And yeah, it's just like there's that lethargy about our senior players that we just don't see, in the youngsters, which I suppose is, the bit of youth. But
Yeah, I watched that. Do you know what makes me agree with that? When I watched Leeds the other day, I was
yeah,
like, Leeds, man for man, do not have the greatest of teams individually, do they? But the way that's like I watched them play against us at the Emirates. They were good, but they kind of controlled the game a little bit more. But when I watched them on Saturday, it was sort of the running. They were. I said to someone, I said, we look like we're running on mud. They look like they are skating on ice. That's how it looked. And I said, why is it that we just look so lethargic and run down? And it's just like, it was so weird. And like you're saying, maybe it is a thing with the senior players. Maybe it's just we need to just mix it up a little bit more. But coming off, a lot of players have played international break as well, and maybe we just need to manage minutes. But I mean, now that we're through, we should be able to manage them a lot better, hopefully.
yeah, absolutely. I think getting these 3 points was absolutely key for then, as we get into this busier Christmas period, we've got two
Yeah,
games we don't need to worry about. We can just send whoever we want out in those. And, if we get a point in the next two games, I think that guarantees us top.
yeah.
Big shout out as well.
I don't know what the other score was, to be fair.
I don't either, but 12 points is definitely good enough for us to go up top, I think. Big shout from Mike Hahnemann as well, who has stuffed £5 down the front of Danny's not manicured front. And I was going to do this whilst I found out does anyone know what group we are in? There's too many groups. Group B. That's helpful. So yeah, we are 12 points.
So we've won the group then.
We've basically qualified already. Molde are on 6 points.
And they
Rapid
can't pass
Vienna,
us because
they can't pass us because it's not goal difference that they use in Europe. Head to head. Rapid Vienna are then also on 6 points, and unfortunately Dundalk are on 0 points. So yeah, I think we've definitely got a chance. I can't remember what the Rapid Vienna score was now off the top of my head. Was it 1-0? We beat them? Was it 2-0?
No, we beat them more than 1-0. I'm sure we scored a few goals in that.
Yeah, but they basically need to better that score, is what I was trying to get to anyway, to beat us in head-to-head. So I don't think we can kind of see that as a problem, and we should be able to make it through. But let's also talk about, should I go through the subs as well? Let's go through the subs, because there's a couple of subs that happened before the third goal of the evening. Kieran Tierney came on, as did Ceballos for Xhaka and Willock. Oh, and Emile Smith-Rowe for Lacazette. What did you think of the performance of Smith-Rowe as well? There.
Oh man, this is my one of my personal favorite players. I've got this thing about. I mean, ever since I've seen this kid play, he's so special, and if he could stay injury free, I think he could be such a good asset for the team. Obviously, he came on quite late on. I mean, he did all right. He was always making himself available. He's a lot taller now. He's grown up a lot more. We can see that he's physically growing. Maybe that might contribute to some of the injuries, that he's having. Because I mean, we've had players like that in the past who at 17, 18, 19 get a lot of injuries and then grow through it. We've had the Ramseys, we've had the Kieran Gibbs, Gail Clichy. If you look back at their career when they were younger, when they were growing, they had a lot of injuries, and some of them kind of like, especially someone like Gail Clichy, just it passed, But he's a player that I really, really like. He makes space. Obviously, he got an assist as well. So I cannot complain about that. I've got high hopes for him. Hopefully we can see him a little bit more in the next two group games as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the interesting things about one of the other subs that came on as well as Kieran Tierney was that we then moved Maitland-Niles into the midfield. I don't know what that means going forward, but it's just one of those interesting things that kind of occurred at that point, that if we're playing 3 men in midfield, then there is potentially an opportunity for Maitland-Niles to play in a position that he has said previously that he would like to play in centrally. But then let's talk about the kind of, I don't want to say poster boy, because we do have a tendency to overreact or overhype certain talents. But Nketiah came off and was replaced by Bellerin, who we did see for a little bit of a cameo in the previous Europa League game. I think he played 10 minutes or so in that one and got another 10 minutes in this one. But should we talk about what would be I think it was his second touch?
First and second touch.
And second touch. I think it was what you were kind of saying of these players that we've got that are so hesitant to take a shot. He didn't think twice, did he? He just was like, fuck this, I'm burying it. And I think, Smith-Rowe plays in a great ball to him and he just gets it out of his feet. And do you think he's done the goalkeeper, or do you think he scuffed it?
I don't know. I think he knew exactly what he wanted to do. Even before the ball came to him, he had a picture in his mind of what he wanted to do. That's my personal thinking. What do you think?
I mean, I'm happy you said that. The only reason I said that maybe he scuffed it is I was covering myself for potentially quite a poor opinion. And I can't come out straight and say he definitely meant to put it straight down the middle, because the keeper dives dives down to the bottom corner, and Balogun's gone, who plays it into the corner? I'm just going to smash it straight down the middle because that's not where you're going to go. A bit like, playing a penalty straight down the middle. You assume the goalkeeper's going to dive. So, percentages say play it straight down the middle.
Yeah, I think so. Thunder Road in the chat is saying it's okay to say I fancy Bellerin because of his Nigerian descent. Do you know what the funny thing is? I actually know one of my friends is like a family friend of his, and I remember in the summer he said, "Oh, Femi's off. He's off." That's what, that was before all the rumors came out. He said, "Oh, he's not happy. He's not even getting training with the first team, and he's just off. He's just not happy." And every time I ask him now, he just never replies. I sent him a message just now. I said, he's a Man United fan, by the way. I sent him a message. I'm like, "Oh, Bellerin just scored with his first touch," and he literally has not replied to me at all. A couple of weeks ago, I said, "I heard Bellerin signing a new contract, and he's staying." He said he did not reply to that. He just ignored it, never spoke about it. But yeah, he's definitely. I mean, a lot of us have been keeping an eye on this kid. His scoring record at all the age groups is just phenomenal, isn't it? And is it me? I'll ask you this: if you look at the size of him when he comes on, isn't he just physically just at 19? Just he looks.
Yeah, this is the odd thing that, because I said it before and I realised it was just when I looked at it like in the stats. Nketiah is only an inch shorter than Bellerin. Now, whether or not FIFA or transfer market, whoever's doing these things, hasn't got a tape measure to Bellerin in the last year, and he's had a growth spurt over the summer, there's no fucking way there's an inch difference between the two of them. Because how he physically holds himself. And I think when he's looking to make a run as well, he's always very big. Like, he always kind of stretches himself out. He always makes sure that the attacker can see him, or the guy that's got the ball, the playmaker, can play him in. He's demanding the ball every so often, and look to be the only player that I've seen in a while that's demanding the ball over the top, and someone's fulfilling that as well. Like, you saw Aubameyang do it, and Aubameyang does it in games. Like, he's calling for the ball over the top, and he's just not getting it.
Yeah.
Then maybe it's because he's coming on the last 10 minutes of games where the play's stretched, there's a bit more space in behind, and they fancy the kids come on. They want him to make sure that he stays as well because they can see the talent, and they want to make sure that he's getting the service that he'd like. But there does seem to be something very different in this kid.
There does seem. He's added a few zeros to those negotiations, that's for sure. I really wonder how what's his name leaving will affect those negotiations. Our contract negotiator.
Femi.
Yeah, because we're basically starting from scratch with this negotiation. A new negotiation team. Whatever happened seems to have been swept under the carpet, and he's making strides, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think we've got Edu in place now, and we've got Tim Lewis. I imagine that's what I kind of saw from it, was we've got rid of the guy that drew up contracts, but we've also simultaneously brought in a guy who's a lawyer.
Yeah.
As a big, as a partner at a big law firm in London. Chances are, we're probably just subbing the work out to them to get the contracts written up. To negotiate a contract, you don't need necessarily a lawyer to do that. You just need, Edu can do that. Saka can be doing it. We just need the people to draw stuff up. And
then I wonder now, what is it that will convince him to stay is a big question, isn't it? Because is it now about game time? Is it about a pathway? What are we gonna? How are we gonna? Because the more we play him and build him up, I mean, literally in January, I know it's different for under 24s in terms of speaking to other clubs and stuff like that, but he's literally 6 months from the end of his contract in January. That's in 4 weeks. So we kind of need to get a move on this. This should be like one of the high priorities, I would say.
Yeah, I'm getting very much deja vu with Saka. as well,
Yeah.
because it was a really similar thing with him where he was coming through and he was smashing it for us. Even in in the Premier League, he was just superb, but running that contract down, so to speak. And I think, yeah, it's a big decision for the kid as well to have a look at what we've got in place.
Mm.
I think most of the fan base are fairly convinced we'll look for a striker in the summer to come in and replace a Lacazette.
Yeah.
In
So
that regard.
then, like asking you then,
Mm.
my personal, I've got an opinion, but I want to ask you then, what would
Yeah.
you do then? Because I'm looking at Lacazette and Nketiah, and I'm looking at
Mm.
Nketiah right now, and I'm thinking, this is the type of player that a Liverpool would
Mm.
take and use to raise funds in terms of he's not doing it in the first team for us, but he's got an under 21 stock right now that is rising and rising, and that is definitely must be worth something. What do you think of that?
I would have said last summer as well as this summer that I would have shifted Nketiah if a decent thing came in. The only reason I would have held on to him was purely because of what was happening with Balogun, to
Mm-hmm.
make sure we had a young striker in there. But then we've also got Tyrese John Jules as well,
Yeah,
who is out on loan. He's another young striker coming through. I wouldn't necessarily, where we like to kind of hold on to our young players coming through because we don't think we'll get another one in that position. Like if we found a left back coming through our academy,
yeah,
we'd hold on to them for the rest of the time because we just don't have that in the
yeah,
squad at the moment. The same if we saw a defensive midfielder come through, but striker, we've got so many options in there.
yeah.
And you can see the likes of Ryan Brewster, who went off to Sheffield United
Hmm.
from Liverpool in the summer. I think they paid 20 plus 25 million for him.
Yeah,
That's
25.
the
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the kind of money we could look to get from Nketiah.
definitely.
And I think that's one of the things that I'd potentially look like. If we could sign Balogun up, then I think the minutes in the Europa League, the minutes in the League Cup can go to someone like him there, because those would have been the things that Eddie would have got, the minutes Eddie would have
Yeah,
got.
yeah,
And bring in another striker, someone who's around, the 25 kind of age. Someone's going to give us good 3 years or so.
yeah,
Gives Balogun the chance to say, right, no, not a huge amount of pressure on you because we've still got this guy here. We've still got Aubameyang who can play up front if we need to as well. And then we've also got the youngsters pushing him as well. So it's not like a case of, kind of sit there and it's fine. You've got 3 years to make an impact. He's still
exactly.
got to have that pressure underneath him. So yeah, I wonder whether or not, yeah, because I don't get that feeling from Nketiah. I know he's got that kind of striker's instinct, but there's a bit more to his game that I think he was missing. It's one of the huge
Yeah,
frustrations of why we decided to recall him from Leeds. I think we should have kept him there.
yeah. I've heard you say that a few times.
Yeah, and I'm sure I won't bore anyone else with me continuing to say it as
It's
well.
true. No, it is
But
true. It is
who
true.
have we got as well? I was just trying to see if we've got any questions from the listeners.
We got that.
Yeah,
Speaking of young strikers, I mean, there's a young striker. I think is he Swedish or so, I don't know where he's from. That is making strides or making headlines in training. He's quite new, a tall Scandinavian player. Muller. Someone's saying that there, or Danny's putting that there.
there
Muller.
we go.
He's making strides in training apparently, and in on the 21s. I saw a compilation of him.
Hmm.
He's under 21 performances. He's quite a handful at that age group already.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about why we shouldn't be so precious about Nketiah,
Yeah,
for me anyway, that if we can get money for him,
yeah,
go and get it. We weren't, the money came in for Martinez and we decided to cash in. I think the same happens for Nketiah if that happens as well.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think we've got the right negotiating team as well to get these kind of money out of it. But let's have
I
a look
hope
at
so. I mean, the days of taking I mean, the days of getting low fees for players has to kind of stop. That's the only way we're going to push forward is to start getting fees for players now. You know, especially with money the way it is. I'm sure by next season. So we'll see.
And if we've got any want to get Szoboszlai from RB Salzburg, we're gonna need cash up front as well to get those kind of players. So I'm quite happy with us trying to raise funds. We know we've got a bloated squad, so people are going to have to leave. But we've got a couple of questions that have come in. One from Julian Salmon, and I'll ask you this quick one. Would you take Christian Eriksen?
No.
Cool.
I don't see. I mean, for me, he was never a personal threat to Arsenal when he was in the Premier League. As far as I was concerned, he's not the quickest. He's not the most physical. Yes, I mean, you would say creative. Yes, set pieces. Yes, maybe, but I don't see the difference between an Eriksen and a Willian. If that's me being honest, his performances in Italy have not gone down well at all. Obviously, he's playing for a demanding manager, but I mean, at the same time, his performances for Tottenham 6 months before he left were saying absolutely nothing as well. So, we've seen that before with Alexis Sanchez. Do we want to really take another high-paid player to come? And I mean, you just mentioned a 20-year-old Hungarian player that's 20 years old, so much more upside. You're paying 25 million euros for him, so what, 23, 24 million pounds maybe. I mean, so much more upside. By the time you get an Eriksen, there's no upside to him. To be honest, there's nothing. There's no resale value. There's nothing. He's just another 28, 29, 30-year-old player that you're adding to the squad that you'll never get rid of. To be honest, so for me, it's a no.
Yeah, it's a flat no from me as well. Because, as you say, he's 30 years old, so we'd have to get rid of 3 players.
He's 30, there you go.
Yeah, we'd have to get rid of him, get rid of 3 players to bring him into the squad. And I was going to say, if you're going to shift a player, if you shift 3 players out to try and bring someone like Eriksen in, why don't you bring in Mesut Ozil for 3 months or for the rest of his contract? Because there's the same kind of player, to be honest.
Exactly.
If it was straight out of Ajax, kind of Christian Eriksen, yes, because then we could have linked him up with I know you called him Nicholas Bentner, and create that Danish partnership that they had going there for their national team. A question we have got. One from Mike Harneman. I think we'll go this one because we're going a bit long, and that's my fault. Has Reiss Nelson done enough for you guys to get a start against Wolves on Sunday to replace Pepe? I think we covered it a little bit.
Yeah, we kind of covered it. Yeah. What did you think, actually? You didn't really answer that. That one earlier.
I think yes, but then you brought up a great point of what we do with Lacazette. Does Lacazette go back up at number, playing as a 9? Or do we have him sitting a little bit deeper? And then in which case, do we see Aubameyang and Lacazette basically up top together, and then Nelson and Willian on the wings? That does sound quite good to me, to be honest, to start against Wolves. I think perhaps that's what Arteta was trying this evening, was Lacazette playing slightly deeper with a striker directly ahead of him. Let's see what he's done. But I think Nelson has done enough to warrant him coming in if, I think, as you said, Saka isn't necessarily ready to start.
Willian is probably the one that you're going to look at.
Willian is the one that will want to drop, but is he the one that Arteta's going to drop? Realistically, I don't think so.
He's going to start, isn't he?
He's going to start him.
And I think you're probably looking at Reiss Nelson playing 90 minutes tonight probably means he won't start as well. Because most of the players that came off, you could see as they were coming off, like a Xhaka comes off early, a Lacazette comes off early, you kind of think it's with one eye on, especially when Xhaka comes off at 2-0. If it goes 2-1, don't know what's going to happen. But once you start taking players off at that age, at that time, then you're probably thinking a player playing 90 minutes probably isn't playing on Sunday.
Yeah, that is true. Right. We're just coming up to 40 minutes. I know we've said this season we want to keep these a little bit shorter. The discussion will always continue after these shows on our Discord channel. I can't remember what it is. Danny will put links in there. I have started creating various different categories, and if anybody has an idea of what different sub-channels, categories, I'm not sure what they're called, for them, we will create them. We'll get them in. I think there's one called Fife's Forum in there already. There is one for anybody who has done some manscaping and would like to show off their wares. John Welsh has officially subscribed to that one, and we will be ensuring he rates your shave as well. I can absolutely guarantee that on John's behalf, who has not heard that this is something we're doing, but will have to agree with it now that it's in place. Femi, do you have anybody to kind of shout out to? Otherwise, I will thank you for being on this evening.
No, just shout out to everyone in the chat. I've been reading the chat. Everyone's got some good points. I disagree with some, agree with some, but it's always good to. And here's me signing up for Discord, going into the chat so we can continue the chat when the live is finished.
But yeah, and thank you to Mike as well, who gave us a little donation. As I say, if you do want to be a little bit trimmer for winter, then go to manscaped.com and use the code Bergkamp for 20% off. If you do like what we're doing, you can also give us a like on whichever platform you're listening to us on, subscribe, click a bell icon so you know when we go live. And there's another thing you can probably do as well. Leave us a review. Why not? Positive, negative, I don't mind, because Danny will read them and pass us on all of the feedback as well. And the only thing I can now ask is, Danny, can we wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and can you switch this off, please?
Happy Thanksgiving all.